Hi there, my name is Chuck Isaacson, and this is my shop. A little bit about me. I served in United States Army and Wisconsin Army National Guard for a total of about 11 and a half years. And I was serving in Afghanistan in February of 2007 when I was in a helicopter crash. I was in a Chinook helicopter, and we fell about 400 feet straight down and caused me to receive several damages to my back, which left me paralyzed from the chest down and requiring the use of a wheelchair. Throughout my time in my rehab, I spent about 8-9 months rehabbing to the point to where I was ready to go back at things by myself. And afterwards, I decided I needed something to fill my time. And I found hunting and woodworking. Well, hunting season ended and woodworking began, so I decided I was going to learn a few things and build myself a shop. So I built this place. This is my shop here. It's attached addition to my garage, and it's about dimensions are 24 by 30, so it's a fairly decent sized shop here. The reason I built so big is because I'm in a wheelchair, and being in a wheelchair, I don't have the luxury of being able to carry things the way that a normal person would, where they can just stand up and carry a board on end. I have issues doing that, and it becomes a maneuverability thing. So I end up laying a lot of stuff across my lap. So I designed it with wide spaces in mind, large areas for me to lay something across my lap and to be able to roll through here. And you'll see that as we go through the shop. Right when we come in the shop, right here is my main battle station, I guess. I do pretty much everything out of here. I do all my designing, my research, and a lot of just regular interneting. We got a laptop with just a leftover display here from in the house. I wasn't doing anything, so I put it out here, and it's really nice to be able to separate things when you're working on them and do several things. It's just all around entertainment. I stream all my music from the internet through here, and just general storage for everything else. I've got a TV too. It's nice. It's a little distracting at times, but it's a comfort. These are my roll under areas here. I have about 4 or 5 of them in the shop that allow me to roll up underneath the cabinets and to get at my storage here. I've done pegboard storage because it's convenient. It's pretty easy to build and very flexible in your arrangement. I have 10-foot ceilings in the shop, so everything, lots of ability to use lots of big things, big projects, and all that kind of stuff. But it kind of looks funny because everything's at half height. My reach on a good day, I can reach pretty high, but even some things are out of my reach. So I've designed the shop to be, everything's at my level. You'll find a consistent height with everything, 30 inches on, around 30 inches for all countertops and work surfaces. And then the highest up I go is about 6 foot. So I have lots of room left up on the ceilings, on the walls too. Now I'll show you a bit about my workflow. If we come in, if I'm starting a project, I will first obviously come to lumber storage. I use vertical lumber storage because obviously horizontal lumber storage takes up a lot of space, and that's wall space where I can reach is at a premium in here. So everything needs to kind of be maneuvered. So I use the vertical, and this is just simple, just 2x4s with dowels sticking out and a chain across the front to keep materials from falling down. So I'll get my materials here, sheet goods or rough stock. I'll take my rough stock and I'll move down to the miter saw station. Again, I have a roll under area here. I'll keep cut off bins and all that kind of stuff down here. I've built up a large work surface here that's level with my miter saw, so I can slide everything right down. It's very easy. One thing about this is that it's also removable. All I have to do is pull it up, and now I have all this work surface that's available for me. You know, I can just push it out here, and if I need to use this for storage or if I'm doing something else, then I can do that. And then it just slips right back into place. Now I have my whole work surface here. So I use this area and I'll rough up all my blanks. You know, I'll cut everything to rough size and get it ready to go. From here, I'll bring it on down here to call it the first staging area. But this is where I'll stack all my rough stuff waiting to be jointed. So from here, right over to the joiner. I'll joint here. It's kind of a challenge, you know, finding a joiner that'll work for me. I started with the 6-inch Grizzly that I cut the bottom mobile base off, and it took about 4 inches out of the height, which brought it to a real nice level. But then I upgraded, and then when I started upgrading, I just started looking around for the lowest possible table height I could find. And I wanted big, I was thinking 8 or 12, and I ended up with the Grizzly 12-inch because it is of the lower table heights that you can find. Joining operations are simple, or just, they're a little more challenging because it is obviously slightly different of a work surface here. It's just makes things kind of awkward, but once you get the hang of things, then it's just normal. I just have to make sure to keep my arms up out of the way and make sure that my brakes are set on my chair. Otherwise, I'll be pushing and sliding all over the place. I also like to use, this is a gripper system. What I've done is taken the back and put a little catch on the back. And what it allows me to do is, since I can't get on top of a workpiece like an able-bodied person, then I need a little help. So I use this little kicker here at the back to grab the back of the workpiece and help me work it through. It's my go-to tool when I'm doing a lot of jointing. After things are jointed, I'll do my 2 faces, then they'll come over here and generally take a seat on the workbench. From here, they wait to go to the planer. So I do my first 2 faces here on the joiner, and then I move to the planer. After I plane things, they come through and they'll either get set here to get stocked up where they'll go through again until the final dimension, or when they're done, then they come over here to the outfeed table, and then they'll get staged and laid out and ready to get the final cutting. So from there, they're obviously brought over to the table saw, where they'll get the final rip, you know, the final finish, get set to final dimensions, and big outfeed table, lots of support for long boards. I can cut up to 8 foot and have it stay on top of the table without, it'll stay balanced. I don't have to worry about trying to hold it while the saw is shutting down. So I set it up that way, so I have lots of room and lots of places to hold things. As you can imagine, working with larger stock and larger sheet goods is kind of a challenge. So I kind of just developed a way that works for me to do things, and that would start by, I can either do 2 things. I can use in-feed support, but that gets in the way sometimes. If I'm running real big stuff, then I'll set up a table and use it as just a shelf to kind of use for in-feed support. That helps a lot. But if I'm just doing smaller pieces like these where in-feed support really isn't going to help, what I'll usually do is I'll start the cut, you know, back here, and I'll begin to feed the piece through until I get to the table, and then I just pull myself forward and then continue through with the rest of the cut. So I just kind of, I don't keep the brakes on my chair super tight. They stay tight enough to where it'll hold me in place, but loose enough to where I can still pull myself forward while the brakes are on. So when I go back to pushing again, then I won't get pushed all over the place. One of the issues that you run into is being in a wheelchair is that you just can't, while you're working a piece, you can't just turn and stop and move. It's a complicated process, if you're working on a workpiece, you can't just, stop what you're doing, undo your chair, make your arrangements and all that kind of stuff. So what I do is I usually spend quite a bit of time thinking about how I'm going to make all my cuts to make sure I know how I'm going to work through the workpiece, what I'm going to do when I start getting close to the blade, when I start getting that dangerous area. I'm always thinking about where my hands are in position to the blades. Some people may not think that some of my techniques are the safest, but it's the only choice that I have if I want to do this. So I just take a lot of time. I think through what I'm going to do, make sure that I'm going to have the proper clearances, make sure that I'm going to have the proper areas to maneuver my workpiece, especially when working on a bandsaw. Because if you're cutting curves and all that and doing designs, if you're cutting big circles or whatever you're doing, you just need to think through your whole process of what you want to get done before you begin that process. So this is basically how I do things here in my shop. It's what I do now. It's become a part of who I am and definitely something that I enjoy doing. So thanks for coming with me and taking a tour of my shop.